Welcome back to Multiversal Studios. In this video, we'll be doing the ultimate character analysis on the character Gohan, all the way from the very start of Dragon Ball Z to Dragonball Super, even covering the new movie Dragonball Super Super Hero, which was confirmed as canon, as we will only be looking at canon Gohan material. So if you haven't seen the new movie yet, there probably will be a few spoilers involved. Gohan, son of Kakarot, a character which Toriyama originally intended to take over the spot of our main protagonist, Goku. From the beginning of the series, when Gohan was first introduced by Toriyama, they took a completely different approach with Gohan than they did with Goku, showing clear parallels to the child protagonist as we saw in the original Dragon Ball anime. In many ways they were very similar, both being Saiyans, with Gohan being half Saiyan, both having tails as well as being similar ages. However, their major differences being their upbringing, as it was completely different, with Goku losing his only father figure, his grandpa Gohan, very early on, and having to raise himself in the wild, which of course he was completely capable of, leading to his personality being brash and confident, whereas Gohan, on the other hand, had two loving parents from the get-go and was raised mainly by Chi-Chi, who installed manners and proper etiquette, leading Gohan not having as much exposure to the wild, apart from the occasional trip with Goku. Due to his sheltered upbringing, Gohan, as we were introduced to him, was a very timid character, and it's actually quite adorable comparing the two of them together. This was highlighted even further when Goku introduced them to his friends, where they had a similar reaction as they all knew Goku when he was a child and expected something similar from his son.
Well, he sure seems a lot different than you were when you were a kid, Goku.
I know. Chi-Chi can be pretty overprotective when it comes to Gohan. She makes him study all the time, and she says martial arts are a waste of energy.
3.
Now let's skip forward to when Raditz kidnaps Gohan. We see the first moment of Gohan's raw power, which he subconsciously used to protect his own father. Now this moment was groundbreaking and really solidified Gohan as one of the fan favourites of the show. Now to really understand why this moment was so impacting was because the situation was critical. Goku was losing the fight and Piccolo at that point had given up. However, Gohan's headbutt was a game changer which critically damaged Raditz to the point where he was unable to recover from the blow and suffered internal damage for the duration of the fight. Now this headbutt reminded me of Goku's fight against King Piccolo, where he also mustered all his strength and broke through King Piccolo's defense, piercing him through the chest. Now Gohan didn't exactly cut a hole through Raditz, partially I believe due to the Saiyan armor, but in that one move I think it perfectly displayed that Gohan had a lot more potential than Goku ever did as a kid, as Gohan's power level in that one moment surpassed Goku and Piccolo, making him technically the strongest Z fighter on Earth. This is where things become more interesting, as three people witness his breakthrough of power: Goku, Piccolo and Raditz, each of them realizing that this was impossible for a kid his age. So Gohan suddenly becomes a very mysterious, interesting character, as not only are the other people on the screen wondering what happened, but us at home watching are suddenly planted with a seed, which is, what is Gohan really capable of? What is his secret power? Now this is a question which is slowly answered during the series, as we slowly get to see Gohan evolve and grow into the character that once was going to replace Goku as the protagonist. Now being a Goku fanboy, I have to say I didn't like this idea at first, but the way they first introduced Gohan and shows what he can do, the idea started to look promising. Which brings us nicely to the Saiyan arc, where Gohan in my opinion was a little bitch. However, as I grew older I realised that I was being completely unfair on Gohan, After Raditz was killed, it was revealed that 2 of his colleagues heard about the Dragonballs being on Earth and were on their way in order to wish for immortality. And these Saiyans, Vegeta and Nappa, were incredibly strong, giving them 1 year to prepare. Now in this 1 year, Gohan did improve quite a fair bit, with the help of Piccolo. Piccolo's training methods was quite unorthodox, as at the start of his training, Piccolo abandons Gohan in the wild, attempting to break Gohan out of the shy crybaby phase he was going through. After many episodes where frankly he was getting on my nerves, but objectively speaking, if anyone was put in that position, they would probably do far worse than Gohan did, especially at his age. I think because Gohan opened so strong against Raditz, watching the following 30 episodes of him crying didn't hit the same. But I guess that's the point. I think the series started by raising everyone's expectations of the character so high, and I don't mean just us as the audience, but also the characters in the show like Piccolo and Goku, which expected great things from him from the very get-go. Now against Nappa, Gohan didn't fare too well. I mean, would you blame him? Nappa terrified Gohan. Gohan watched as his comrades faded one after another, dying right in front of his eyes. Especially when it happened to Piccolo, who at the time was like a father figure for Gohan, and someone Gohan had come to respect. But saying that, it doesn't change the fact that he did let them down in the fight, and Gohan becomes a mere spectator to the epic fight that undergoes between Goku and Vegeta. Now some of you will say that he did transform into his Ozaru form, which helped weaken Vegeta in their fight. However, this video will be looking at Gohan's progress and downfalls, and a mindless rampage of Gohan, which he had no control over, doesn't really help his character development. Now the Saiyan arc might have been seen as a failure by some, however for Gohan's development, he achieved a few great things which is critical. First thing, Gohan's attitude had completed on 360 since the first time we saw him on screen, as we see scenes like this.
Great! It looks like tail steak for breakfast. Hey, you won't have much of a tail if you keep this up. I used to have a tail too, you know.
It's just like how Goku was as a kid, however, without losing any of Gohan's politeness. The second thing was his basic training. He learned to control ki, as well as how to fight hand-to-hand combat, at least the basics. So Gohan's core foundations were established in this arc. Gohan even overcame one of his greatest obstacles, and overcame his fear of Nappa. An inner battle within himself, where he had to get over his overwhelming fear and return to the battlefield of his own choosing, which would take an enormous amount of courage. Now, right off the bat, the focus of this saga wasn't Gohan, and this was made abundantly clear throughout. However, he does have his moments, which we are going to dive into. This saga's main focus was expanding the world of Dragon Ball Z outside of Earth. We get to learn about the 2 races, which are the Namekians as well as the Saiyan race. So already the people that were going to shine were going to be Vegeta and Goku, the 2 full-blooded Saiyans still alive. Well, that we know about anyway. As well as Piccolo and Kami, the only 2 Namekians that we have been introduced to. Now Gohan, only being half Saiyan, has no real connection to the history of planet Vegeta, so you could say he acted as a side character during this arc with no real memorable feats, unless you count Gohan alongside Krillin and Bulma all flew to Namek to borrow the Dragon Balls from the Namekians in order to revive the fallen Z fighters which Gohan failed to protect. Now most of the arc is pretty standard, During the arc, Gohan goes to meet Grand Elder Guru, where his potential is unlocked for the first time. Now, this is the ability which draws out the inner potential of Gohan, which he has yet to unlock. Now, this links right back to the very start of the series, where Gohan demonstrates incredible power. So as you can imagine, Guru unlocking this secret power meant an incredible boost of power for Gohan, surprising even Vegeta with the power boost. Now, was this power boost of any significance to the actual arc? Well, not really. The first major fight Gohan and Krillin end up coming across is the Ginyu Force, an elite group working directly for Frieza. Now, I'm going to skip past Buldo, as because of his weird powers to stop time, we couldn't really see the full power of Gohan. Plus, he was dispatched very quickly by Vegeta. Now, the next fight is where they go against Recoome, the bulky, brainless musclehead of the group, who is unfortunately very strong. Now, we get to see Gohan fight for real. However, his strength was no match for Recoome. Gohan seems to have an affinity where he displays temporary displays of strength when he's angry or emotional, which seem impressive at the time, however does barely any damage to the enemy, whilst also losing all his power straight after. So I would say Gohan's power at this stage is very temperamental and acts based depending on his emotions. It seems to mainly take place after one of his comrades is damaged or hurt. However, one positive that did come from the fight with Recoome, even though at the end of the fight Gohan was left with a broken neck, was the fact that Recoome was pretty much a mirror image of Gohan's last challenge, which was Nappa. I would probably say the only difference between Nappa and Recoome is that probably Nappa is a little smarter, as well as Nappa would die before doing this dance.
And now, feel the power of Recoome!
So the clear differences Gohan displays if you compare the two fights together. Gohan has absolutely no fear when in combat, and don't get me wrong, he was surprised by how durable Recoome was, but in combat alone, Gohan performed with no fear and executed his combinations perfectly without missing a beat. And you have to factor in that not much time has passed since the fight with Nappa, so it's so great to see Gohan's character development so clearly in front of our own eyes. Gohan seems like a more reliable person in combat, even saving Vegeta against Recoome's attack. Now obviously Goku saves the day, however he also notices how strong Gohan has become, since the last time he had seen Gohan was back on Earth. Now Gohan may only be half Saiyan, however he still has access to the Zenkai boost that Saiyans receive in combat, and after every battle Gohan's power also increases. This brings us to the next big fight of the arc, which is against the demon themselves, Lord Frieza. Now yet again, there isn't much to say about this battle. Gohan has his moments, like I mentioned before, temporarily slowing Frieza down, without doing any lasting damage. One thing I will mention about this arc is that Gohan was there when Goku transformed into the Super Saiyan for the first time, right in front of his very eyes. He was the only other conscious fighter, apart from Frieza, who witnessed it firsthand, which may not add to his power, but he was the only one who saw how Goku achieved that form. Visual learning is something that is very prevalent in Dragon Ball Z, with many Z fighters copying techniques by witnessing it firsthand, and that even applies to how Goku learned the Kamehameha for the first time. Finally, the Cell arc. Now, this, unlike the Saiyan and Frieza arc, does revolve around Gohan. This is a series which Gohan takes a role as the main character, and a lot of the season focuses on Gohan and his capabilities as a fighter. It really fleshes out his character and explores the mental barriers which obstruct him from achieving greatness. Now in this arc, Gohan is a teenager, and it starts with a pre-warning from future Trunks regarding the androids who are fated to destroy the planet and everyone who lives on it. The androids are let loose on the population, however a new threat approaches from a different timeline known as Cell. Cell absorbs both androids and becomes the perfect Cell. which begins the Cell Games, which is a reference to the old martial arts tournaments Goku used to participate in as a child. Now this is where Gohan's true strength develops, as Gohan alongside his father trained together in the hyperbolic time chamber. Now this is quite groundbreaking, as the only time Gohan's trained was with Piccolo, and that was only the basics of combat. So this is where Gohan's true training begins. Now Gohan even states in the hyperbolic time chamber that Goku mainly focused on training him and didn't remember seeing Goku training himself. Now Gohan, in the space of a year, which is only a day to us, achieves something great. Gohan goes through some intense training with his father, and being his father, he was occasionally naturally easy on him. However, Gohan himself told his father that he won't get any stronger if he goes easy on him. This training arc made me very happy as a Dragon Ball Z fan. Unfortunately, these were only shown to us in snippets. However, each section of the clips that were shown to us was a piece of gold. So much development for Gohan in these scenes. Gohan during the flashbacks unlocked the legendary status of Super Saiyan, which at that point was very rare. Not like nowadays where everyone and their mums are unlocking that ability. Gohan, to unlock that form, was pushed to his limits by Goku. Gohan had something that everyone was looking for. Well, definitely me. And it was a moment of self-reflection. Everything Gohan had done in the past, when it came to being afraid, the helplessness of being too weak, he confronts them all.
I've been letting people down my whole life! How many times have I let my friends down when they needed me?
Attack, Gohan! Attack!
If only I'd been stronger!
Power comes in response to a need, not a desire.
If only I could have done more!
The power comes in response to a need. You have to create that need.
But when the situations are reversed, I just stand there like a little helpless child!
Which made me really happy to see. It's like the character Gohan was speaking to the audience directly, accepting responsibility for all his shortcomings, things I was getting annoyed at him for. This scene was super wholesome, and it was the perfect time for Gohan to master the Super Saiyan. As Goku said, the power comes from a need, not a desire. Gohan manages to deflect the Kamehameha from a Super Saiyan Goku. So only after acknowledging his weaknesses, Gohan was able to surpass one of the barriers, allowing him to gain further power. Now that Gohan had unlocked the Super Saiyan, there were two more critical lessons he learned. The first thing was the balance between power and speed. Now this may seem quite obvious, however, with the amount of times this issue pops up with Trunks as well as Universe 8 Frieza, Goku taught Gohan that he had achieved a form which had the power to easily defeat Cell. However, by powering up and increasing his power, he had to increase the size of his muscles, which meant he was no longer able to compete with Cell's speed. And as Goku put it, it doesn't really matter how strong you are if you can't hit your opponent. This is a lesson Vegeta fails to show Trunks, as he deemed this as too obvious, which leads him to being humiliated by Cell. Now Gohan learns this very early on, so never makes that mistake in the future. Now the second thing Gohan learns, and is very unique to this saga, is both Goku and Gohan learn to stay in their Super Saiyan forms consistently, meaning that base form becomes a Super Saiyan transformation, so they wouldn't expand any energy on their actual transformation.
You're missing the point. It's not about powering up. The point is that they won't have to power up when they fight. They can use all the energy it would take to transform to increase their stamina, and then only go higher if they need to. Darn, it's so ingenious.
Now this was a technique they only used in this arc, however, would be quite interesting to see the Z Fighters try something like this, especially when they reach their god forms. Now Gohan became so strong during his training that Goku's initial fight with Cell, Gohan thought Goku and Cell were still warming up even though Goku was fighting at his max, because Gohan's power dwarfed Goku's at that time.
Tell me something. When Cell and I were fighting back there, did you think it was hard to keep up at all? I mean, were we ever moving too fast for you to see?
No, I could see it all.
But that's only because you and Cell weren't fighting with your full power. I'm sure if you'd been moving as fast as you could, then
I don't know about Cell, son, but I was giving it my all. You thought I was holding back because you were comparing the energy you sensed from me to your own.
Is this true, Gohan?
Yes.
Now Gohan spent most of the fight against Cell on the back foot, with many of the Z fighters not sharing the same belief in Gohan that Goku had. Now it took a while, however it finally dawned on Gohan why he was chosen by Goku as the only one who could defeat Cell. Now Gohan telling Cell this gave Cell an incentive in order to bring out Gohan's hidden power, something he would live to regret. Now Gohan's inner obstacles are incredibly strong. His hidden power is buried so deep within himself that Gohan being pushed to his limits isn't even enough to draw out that power. Now only when Gohan's friends start to get attacked by Cell does he have to face his own weakness once again, similar to when he was in the hyperbolic time chamber, but this time seeing his friends close to death. Gohan, still not strong enough to defeat the enemy, watched his father, who has so much faith in him, nearly die in front of his very eyes. It's only when Android 16 was killed did the monster finally reveal himself. Android 16, someone who understood Gohan.
I know how you feel, Gohan. You are gentle. You do not like to hurt. I know because I too have learned these feelings. But it is because you cherish life that you must protect it. Please, drop your restraints. Protect the life I loved. You have the strength. My scanners sensed it. Just let it go.
Gohan achieved the increase in power without losing any of his speed, something he was a pioneer in, being the first one to achieve the form of Super Saiyan 2. An incredible transformation. Gohan displays his first signs of power by defeating the mini Cell clones that he had created, setting the bar as the strongest, living up to the potential he had inside. Now Gohan might have been incredibly strong, however he lacked in an area which Goku was unable to train him in, which was real life battle experience against an opponent like Cell, which is why Goku fought Cell first, so Gohan could learn Cell's movements and techniques. Like I mentioned earlier in the video, a lot of Dragon Ball Z can come down to visual learning. The same way Gohan saw Goku transform into a Super Saiyan, he also learned from Goku's fight with Cell. Cell was no match for Gohan's speed and power, however Gohan was still half Saiyan, and being half Saiyan still contains the pride and ego which comes with being a Saiyan.
Gohan! Listen to me! You've got to get him! Do it now! We all know you have the power! It's time to use it!
This is something that Gohan has never displayed. However, the further Gohan dives into relying on the Saiyan abilities, the more arrogant he became. Something that led to his downfall. With Gohan's great power, he lost himself, and his personality became corrupted, which leads to Goku sacrificing himself as Gohan began toying with Cell, playing with his food. This was a major turning point in Gohan, as yet again Gohan saw the error of his ways. Gohan's character design is full of flaws, but it's how he overcomes those flaws is what defines him as a great character. And I've got to say, after the Cell Saga, Gohan cements himself as one of my favourite characters. This arc was a big win for Gohan, as now I am sure that I am not the only one that could see Gohan taking over Goku's mantle and becoming the main protagonist. We are left excited to see where Gohan goes next on his journey. Well, until we actually see it, that is.
What the fuck is this piece of shit?
The Buu Saga. Now this saga starts with Goku still being dead, and with Gohan finally being the protagonist, with the audience following him around from his day-to-day life. Now that Gohan is a bit older and an adult, he doesn't exactly continue his training, as the days that followed after the Cell games are ones of peace, and knowing Chi-Chi, who wants Gohan to study all the time, she gets her way, and with Goku no longer being present, Gohan drops his training in order to focus on his studies. Also, Gohan being half Saiyan, he doesn't crave training and combat like full-blooded Saiyans. So Gohan's story arc leads him down crazy and wacky arcs. Exhibit A.
I am the unmitigated champion of justice, who tolerates no evil. Great Saiyaman at your service!
Now Gohan does start to decline during this arc. Now this isn't necessarily Gohan's fault, as Gohan being incredibly strong, he didn't really need to train to deal with small issues with robbers or bandits. However, not training meant his power started to stagnate and wouldn't reach the same level as he did against Cell.
Pathetic. Barely a fraction of the strength he used to take on Cell. Just goes to show you what peace and quiet does for the undisciplined.
So it was almost like Gohan went back to competing with his younger self in terms of power. Which in my opinion is a huge step back for Gohan, which is very frustrating to see as you spent 3 seasons trying to reach Gohan at its peak. As Gohan and the Z Fighters face their enemy, which was Babidi and Buu, again the audience speaks through Vegeta.
What were you doing out there? You should have had him! Every time you throw down the gauntlet, you represent the Saiyan race, which means when you fight badly, we all look like fools! You go too easy on your opponents, always opting for mercy when you should be vicious. That is no way to win. Power is for those who can be ruthless, not bleeding hearts who shrink from dealing the final blow. Survival of the fittest, plain and simple. Take a good look at yourself. 2 of your friends' lives were in the balance. And you crumbled. He's right.
Now during the Cell Saga, Gohan earned Vegeta's respect via his power and his actions. So this scene was hard to watch. Now even though Gohan had some of the most epic moments in that saga, overall it was highly disappointing for his character. Gohan didn't rely on hard work and training, and yet again, just like the Frieza arc, used a similar strategy and used Old Kai to unlock his latent hidden abilities, just like Grand Elder Guru did so long ago. Now don't get me wrong, Gohan starts as a disappointment who would lose against his younger self, to have his latent abilities unlocked by Old Kai, which unlocked a whole new form called Mystic Gohan, a form which surpassed Super Saiyan 2 in power. Now this form was super cool and incredible, however, the way Gohan achieved it bothered me. Whilst Vegeta and Goku train in different unique ways, pushing themselves 100 times the Earth's normal gravity in order to ascend to the next level, Gohan on the other hand relies on his hidden powers and abilities which come from no work of his own, and I believe that's why he was doomed to fail against Buu in the first place. Now many people online were saying that Gohan should have been the one to defeat Buu, however I completely disagree. If Gohan had succeeded against Buu, he would have only proved that having hidden abilities is all you need to defeat an enemy with no hard work, a lesson I doubt Dragon Ball Z wanted to promote. So no offense Gohan, you didn't deserve to defeat Buu. Let's look at a comparison between Goku and Gohan in this circumstance. Goku spent years and years training in Otherworld in order to ascend past Super Saiyan to reach Super Saiyan 3. Gohan's secret ability is great and a great element Gohan has, however him depending on that to get him through situations is something I have always disagreed with. Look at the Cell Saga. As the perfect example, he trained for a year with Goku in the Hyperbolic Time Chamber and he became the Super Saiyan 2 after a year of training. He still depended on his hidden powers to unlock that, however he trained to the point where he could handle that power, and in my opinion he deserved the power as he worked hard for it. However, the Buu Saga showed a weakened Gohan, and their solution to this problem was handing Gohan more power in order to push past his older self and hit the next level. I would say an undeserved growth. Now saying this, Gohan, after unlocking the Mystic Gohan form, he showed Goku respect and fought wearing his father's clothes. And his fight with Buu was epic. The music and Gohan's epic theme song literally sent shivers down my spine. However, Gohan wasn't the one who was stopping Buu, and we all knew that deep inside. Gohan is eventually absorbed by Buu, and that's the end of Gohan's contributions for this arc. I feel Gohan really let us down in this arc, but it's almost like the writers didn't know what to do with the Gohan character, and his character development was a little scattered. However, they did enough to keep the Gohan fans happy. However, I wasn't buying it. Oh god, Dragonball Super, what a disaster. Discussing Dragon Ball Super and discussing how they treated Gohan as a character makes me want to apologise for any criticism I had for Gohan during the Buu Saga. They butchered Gohan's character, absolutely threw all his character development away and started afresh, forgetting everything about his past and everything he'd been through. Gohan is now a married man with Videl as his wife. He returns to studying and focuses on becoming a scholar. However, when old threats like Frieza appear on the screen, wanting revenge on the Earth and Goku, Gohan and the crew are left to defend it, as Goku and Vegeta are currently off-world training with Whis and Beerus. Gohan has the audacity to show up on the battlefield with a green tracksuit, and possibly demonstrates the worst display of fighting, and this is against Frieza in base form. Once again, Piccolo is forced to sacrifice himself in front of Gohan in order to protect him. This for me goes straight back to the Saiyan arc, where Piccolo did the same thing, protecting Gohan from Nappa. However, this was back when Gohan was feeble and defenseless. So this is a full circle moment, showing the audience that Gohan hasn't really changed since that time, and he's still as pathetic as ever. He even struggled to transform into a Super Saiyan, never mind Mystic Gohan. And that's just a pipe dream at this point. How far Gohan has fallen. It legit broke my heart seeing Gohan like this. He couldn't defend his friends and family that he had sworn to protect so long ago. Honestly, when people say Teen Gohan was the one we all needed, I can totally see why. With his pathetic performance, Gohan decides to train with Piccolo again, to try and reach the same level as he was before. With Gohan, it seems like an endless struggle to grasp the power he once attained and mastered so easily. With the tournament of power looming around the corner, Gohan finally manages to get back to his Mystic Gohan form, and Goku appoints Gohan as the leader. I think what really bothers me is that the flaws that are found in Gohan are similar to the ones which Gohan had rectified in the past. Piccolo scolds Gohan for laying down his guard, and Krillin actually defeats Gohan in a 1 vs 1, as Gohan gets distracted and underestimates his opponent.
I'm not done yet! Wow, that's great!
This fight with Gohan vs Krillin sums up my frustration with Gohan. It revealed to me that Gohan is someone who takes 1 step forward and then 2 or 3 steps backwards. The new movie Dragonball Super, Superhero, shows Gohan's new cool form, Beast Gohan. Now this in the cinemas blew my mind, it was amazing. Now this form is apparently the form where Gohan shows us the extent of his hidden ability, and let me tell you, it's crazy powerful, and it definitely is up there with the forms like Ultra Instinct. However, let's talk a little about that movie. There is a certain scene where Piccolo is in disguise and Gohan doesn't seem to recognize him or sense his ki. Now even Piccolo is taken aback from this. How far can you be from your abilities that you don't recognize someone's ki energy, someone you have known your entire life? Even Pan, Gohan's baby, could tell it was Piccolo. This just showed us how far Gohan had reverted. Again. Gohan and Piccolo eventually end up fighting a recreation of Cell. However, it is giant and incredibly powerful. As Mystic Gohan, he was still no match. Piccolo begs Gohan to dig deep, and whilst Piccolo is getting beaten, Gohan is able to unlock a new form which rival the gods. I can't be the only one who sees a problem with that. It's the most cop-out transformation out there. Not the actual form itself, but how Gohan attains it. Gohan's storyline will always end in failure as long as he attains power in the most undeserved manner. Like, don't get me wrong, Gohan's transformations are always cool and powerful. However, 1 second Gohan is incredibly weak, and then the other, he's incredibly strong. using scam methods. His power is unreliable. I think the reason Gohan was such an interesting character from the very beginning of the series was the fact that giving a character who wants nothing to do with fighting the powers of a god is an interesting dynamic. Now with Gohan, I'm just tired of him as a character. He's a disappointment. I can't keep rooting for a character who resets at the start of every arc. Gohan had so much potential, and I don't mean in just power alone, but as a solid character, a fan favourite. And frankly, it's just a shame what became of him.